Alright, so I decided to redo this modified Epiphone Dot Studio. I originally didn't wait long enough for the clear coat to cure, and it caused issues that later bothered me down the road. So after a year of procrastinating, I decided to finally get this finished. I had to strip the old finish off, which when I started doing with a small electric orbital sander, I will tell you the original paint and clear coat were gumming up on the sandpaper pretty hard, so later on in this video I eventually switched over to using a paint stripper. I think I used aircraft stripper. I also ended up using some citrus strip. Both worked. I didn't notice any issues affecting the wood at all, so just take that into consideration. Once I got the majority of the paint off around the neck pickup cavity, I went ahead and started working on that. I added some Bondo, I let it cure, and then I sanded it flat. I personally waited about probably 3 or 4 weeks or so, give or take. So just to give enough time for the Bondo to really cure. Once it had cured after that amount of time, I then went ahead and sanded everything as flat as I possibly could without removing too much Bondo around the neck cavity that was showing through on the old finish. After I had it sanded flat, I then applied a can of 2K clear coat, aka sealer, to help lock everything in. After another probably 3 weeks, I then went ahead and sanded the clear coat flat and smooth, getting the neck cavity area dialed in. I sanded it flat while attempting to leave as much of the clear coat as possible around that area that I had added the Bondo to. Once that was out of the way, I then went ahead and worked on the headstock. The Spurzle tuners that I drilled originally were slightly crooked, at least to my eyes. I thankfully picked up a Stumac tuner drill jig and recentered the tuners as much as I possibly could. I used a small toothpick or skewers depending on the size of the holes that needed to be filled. I also filled in a few of the holes around the truss rod cover. I started using the paint stripper at this point in the build. I didn't film any B-roll using the paint stripper on the back of the guitar. The back was still pretty much all intact and wanted to see if the stripper would even work for $1. Anyways, once I got the paint all stripped off the back, I worked on the sides with some more paint stripper, and then I added some glazing or spot putty to the neck cavity area to help refine it. After it cured and shrank up some, I ended up using a little of the 2-part JB Weld Quickwood epoxy to help fill in those pesky little tab areas where the mounting screws go for the humbuckers. Once all the paint was stripped off and the neck cavity area was looking pretty good, I then went ahead and used some black primer to get it ready for painting. Now at this point, I only primed the front of the guitar. I then went ahead and removed the old tape off the neck, cleaned up the neck and retaped the neck, but adding some thin line tape. When I go to clear coat this guitar, this will make it easier to peel off and clear coat over the new finish around the neck area, as well as keeping it uniform around the entire neck. I then sanded the face of the guitar down and applied more primer, but this time over the whole guitar, including a small bit of the headstock, where I filled in the holes that were from the original truss rod cover. I let the primer cure for another couple of weeks before moving on to sanding it flat one more time and applying my tape for the new design. I used 400 grit sandpaper over the whole body. I used a tack rag to wipe it down and cleaned off the body with 90% rubbing alcohol. Once I was ready to go, I hung the guitar up, gave it a once over to decide if everything was good to go, and started applying my white base coat. I'm using custom paints on this build just like I have with all my other builds. Give it about 20 or so minutes in between each coat of paint. Once you reach full coverage, basically meaning that there's no more primer showing through, you really won't need to apply much more paint after that. Let it flash off or dry for about 45 minutes after the final coat, and then you can move on to applying your clear coat. As for clear coat, I went with a matte clear coat from Spray Max. Their 2K matte clear coat is really nice and pretty durable as long as you give it a few days to dry properly. I'd say 3 days minimum, but give it a week and you should be good to assemble the guitar. I ended up doing 4 coats of matte clear on this one, giving it about 20 or so minutes in between each coat. Finally, you can slap it all back together. I already had all the old hardware and stuff from the original build of this guitar. I think the white body and the gold hardware make it really pop. Tell me what you guys think of this video. Do you think the Ad Astra paint job is pretty cool, or would you have chosen something different? Anyways, if you guys like this video, go ahead, give it a thumbs up, give it a like. If you didn't like this video, also give it a thumbs up. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit all the buttons. I'm Jordan, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.